Thanks for sending me that info as far as those dates.
I just want to turn the TV.
That was exactly.
The volume
and I
is
were
coming
going
from the
back and forth,
TV.
trying to
Okay,
get timelines together of what took place
Well,
first, so on.
you have the video, okay.
Yeah, especially as we.
There is a
Yeah, that's for sure. I had something happen to me the other day. So once I tell you that, it must be required to do this.
Just want to turn.
Oh my gosh.
So I'm getting rid of
Just completely.
2005. So that was a lot of
Is
it.
what?
Still, no.
No recollection.
That's the first time that's ever happened. No, it's always been something.
Well,
Yeah, exactly. Welcome to the club.
exactly.
Hey, everybody. Yes.
Frank, could you say something so that we could adjust the volume?
Hello,
Good.
hello, testing.
There you go. And I finally unmuted myself. So hello.
Hello, thank you.
Okay.
Hey, Rory, can you point the TV just a little bit out to?
Just don't take it off the wall.
It falls off the wall.
There you go. That's probably good. Thank you. I definitely want to wait for Warren.
So Warren
Didn't
said
he
he wasn't,
say he couldn't come tonight?
because in one of his emails said he.
I thought that was last night. He couldn't come.
Yeah, I think that was last night at the planning board.
Yeah,
I
he's
think
coming. Oh, good. Oh, wonderful. He has to. This is his.
Well, that's what I thought.
No, that's, well.
Maybe squeeze in right here, but then your back's.
Okay, so can you guys slide down that way a little bit?
A different shaped table.
You know, we need a half moon.
No, Stan really did one of those. And I was sitting right behind him. I had it. I had the agenda.
Things over here.
I got the
It's fine.
These ones here.
Oh, those I gave him. Works.
Oh,
You gave me both
sorry.
of those. I didn't need
Sorry,
the
I
wasn't
agenda.
paying attention.
I got the agenda.
The police report. Zero.
Especially with the rain, sometimes it's massive. It's a little thing.
Some of that instance, right.
Well, I felt very self-conscious as he posted it on Facebook, and the only thing that I saw in that picture was my, like a spot. I'm like, come on.
I don't want to start the public hearing until Warren gets here. Great.
So I can go get water.
Yeah, sure. But we can have some balance, we can start.
And then do the public hearing. All right, want to get a water fast?
Yeah,
I know you're, yeah.
I was running, guys. I'm sorry. I was on vacation. Lots to get on that.
It just makes you, yeah, crazy.
You had to.
All right, then, I will call this meeting to order. We all stand for
I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. There he is. Yes. Let's get you. So I'm looking for your guidance on opening this public hearing. I would like to open this public hearing.
Why don't you say what it's for?
It is on, I was just gonna get there. This public hearing is on the zoning text changes, the result of the zoning review, its committee and their recommendations. These are text changes only, meaning that there is a second process that we will be doing, which is map changes. But so far, these are the kind of like the small changes in the text of the zoning law that we could make. So is there any public comment?
For the public comment,
Okay.
it's probably better to have our consultants. give
Oh,
their
that's right, of
presentation.
course. I'm so sorry.
Everybody knows
Yeah.
what we're talking.
Thanks. No, Dara, yeah, we could probably go through them in just 5 or 6 minutes if you want. That would give the public who's watching, or are there some members in the audience there? I don't know, but if there are, we could simply summarize these fairly quickly. There's essentially 7 of them, sort of they're titled A through G. And would it help if Taylor could show his screen?
Sure.
Okay.
Yes, Supervisor Cloud, could you give me the screen sharing powers?
Yeah, let's see here. Hold on a second.
So moved.
Okay.
Forgot, I should ask for a motion, that's right. Okay,
And
all right.
Just, oh yeah, we need.
Can
to-
everyone see?
There you go, Taylor. Yeah.
Yep, we can.
Yeah, and I know that you all have this yourselves, of course. But just a short introduction, it says, as the supervisor said that the zoning review committee worked on this for, I would say, 4 months or so. And then, as you know, transmitted to you, the town board, their recommendations. And I think the board has decided to go forth first on this public hearing, just with these 7 text changes, and then have a separate hearing at a later date for some map changes that were recommended to you. And all that you have here tonight have all been put into local law format, as you know, by Warren as your town attorney. So one thing we would suggest, and I forget to say this later, is that after public comment tonight, and the purpose of this hearing is to hear from the public, you might give people, some 10 days perhaps to, if you close the hearing, just give, other people who may be watching 10 days to make any comments in writing. After that, we would be able to do the part 2 of the environmental assessment form and get things ready for you for your next town board meeting on this subject. So just a thought there. And so what the 7 things are, I'm going to hand over to Taylor. And Taylor, I think we might be a little briefer than last night because the board knows all of these pretty well.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to be very brief, interrupt if you have any questions just on these things. So we'll start with item A. The proposal is just to simply remove the NND district. So we'll remove the section and then remove all mentions of it in the zoning code. Item B, it's to clarify the zoning text so that it's clear that a property owner can live in either the principal unit or the accessory dwelling unit, on their property. Item C, the ZRC, and we propose to adjust the minimum building setbacks with the purpose of giving property owners some flexibility and to reflect what buildings are already there so that they won't be as many, existing non-conforming buildings.
Taylor, on this one, are you able to show the schedule?
Yes, yep.
Might show the board, just so refresh everyone's memory there. Yeah.
Yep.
Good. Great.
So these are just some small changes here, changing in the Hamlet Business Main Street and Center Residential, changing the rear yard from 40 feet to 20 feet. In the Hamlet Main Street and Center Residential, changing the combined side yard from 30 feet to 20 feet. And then the single minimum side yard from 15 feet to 8 feet. In the Hamlet Residential, changing the rear yard minimum from 40 to 25 feet. And then you'll see footnote 6 here in the Hamlet Main Street and Hamlet Center Residential. Footnote 6 gives the building department the discretion to examine the maximum building setback from the front yard. Footnote 6 now gives the building department discretion to waive this maximum let the building owner or the landowner match what's already there. What we found is some homes are 50 feet back from the road, and the zoning code actually has a maximum of 25 feet. So this would let other people, if you're building a house, you can match what's already there instead of having your house be closer to the road than your neighbors. All right. And so those are the changes to the building setbacks. For pre-existing non-conforming uses, item D, we made it, or the ZRC wanted to make it slightly easier to simplify. We're simplifying the process for an existing building owner or business owner to expand their non-conforming use. What we're doing is allowing the planning board to allow the planning board to give permission for an expansion up to 35%. It's a little bit more than they're currently allowed. And then beyond that, letting the ZBA do it with an area variance instead of a use variance. So just adding flexibility. Again, just a little bit more flexibility, but keeping the power with the planning board and the zoning board of appeals. Item E, ridgeline protections. We're added 2 specific mentions in the site design, talented design standards, and the conservation subdivision design guidelines. So the planning board, when they're reviewing a site plan in the rural districts or looking at a conservation subdivision, they can point specifically to the new text that says, watch out for ridge lines or design around ridge lines. Item F, and this I'll show you this one as well in a chart, but we're proposing to allow the planning board, give them the power to require a conservation subdivision design for minor subdivisions, which are subdivisions with 4 or fewer lots, if they find a conventional subdivision would impact agricultural resources, open space, or natural resources. This, as you'll see here, this is just a minor change to footnote 1, which already exists. So footnote 1 right now is mainly for protecting agricultural resources in the agricultural overlay district. What we are proposing is to add add open space and the preservation of natural resources to kind of the review area to make sure that the subdivision would not have an impact on open space and preservation of natural resources in addition to agricultural resources. And then we're taking, it's already here in the agricultural overlay. We're just moving it as well, applying it as well to the rural and wellhead protection districts. So this gives the planning board the power to require this. This does not mandate that they require this at all. And then, so lastly, we're proposing, because we understood from the zoning review committee that there are a few uses that the town of Pine Plains would either like to encourage or would like to be larger than 12,000 square feet. The town zoning code, as you know, currently limits most principal buildings in the town to 12,000 square feet. But something like senior housing is what we heard, educational facilities and resorts, it may make sense to be larger than 12,000 square feet. For example, senior housing, it just may not be feasible at all. And senior housing could be something that the town wants to attract or promote for folks that are living there now, but a senior housing development is going to need a larger building area. So with this, it's not just a blanket, approval. All the building sizes are controlled by lot coverage, which is impervious surface in your code. And they're controlled either specifically by the specific use standards in the code or by the underlying zoning district. Maximum building heights for resorts and senior housing facilities are 40 feet, except school buildings are currently allowed to be 45 feet, and we did not propose changing that. The minimum lot size for schools and senior buildings is 5 acres, and resorts would be 100 acres. We propose requiring environmental assessment forms for both schools and senior buildings, and then a full environmental impact statement for resorts.
And I think that's the summary of it. And I think I just mentioned, I'm sure the board already has these, and it's where you have at least 2 recommendations back from involved, or interested agencies. The planning board met last night and they voted to support these amendments unanimously. And I believe that the chairman of the planning board was going to send you a memorandum to that effect. And then also you got a letter from Dutchess County on these. I thought the county had some very thoughtful comments. And I think after you hear from the public now or momentarily, and then anything else in writing, say in the next 10 days, then we could digest all of that, do a part 2 EAF, and then at a next meeting, make some recommendations on comments that have been made, have a discussion with the board on how you want to move on this, move forward on it. So with that, I'll turn it back to the supervisor for public comment.
Great, thank you so much, Taylor and Frank. This has been, the committee was fantastic. Thank you to the committee. Thank you to the 2 of you for helping us so well. Do you want me to read the planning board response? Or we'll put it into the comments, kind of in general, the written comments.
I mean, it's just basically, can you summarize what?
Yeah, total support. The board offers following comments. They've reviewed the changes and they're consistent with the zoning law, will not affect anything, any areas and establishments in the town negatively. And there's adequate facilities and infrastructure to support the changes. So they don't see anything wrong with it.
I think it would be good to read in the final paragraph of the county's.
The county, all right. The department recommends that the board rely upon its own study of the facts in the case with due consideration of the above comments. Yeah, okay.
And basically it's for under local control.
Under
They've
local
made
control.
they've asked more questions, which we can look at a little more closely.
Yeah.
But basically it's up to us.
Great, okay. Is there any public comment at this time? I would remind everybody that we're going to keep it public comment open for written comment for the next 10 days.
Yeah, just let me clarify. Frank, Taylor, were you going to go over the part 2 tonight, or are you going to wait till the next meeting for that?
Well, we didn't know if there would be any public comment tonight, so we like to do the part 2 after we've heard any public comment, but we will do it for your next meeting now. We'll have a part 2 to the board before their next meeting.
That's
Okay,
the
so-
map changes you're talking about.
Yeah, well, a couple of things. So I had made some changes to the law, nothing substantive, but there were some clarifications and typographical errors of that sort. I made some changes which made the local law more clear. There were some cases we were taking out parts of sentences and adding something. And what I did is, for example, for 275-72, I just took out the old A and B and restated the new A and B, so it's more clear. There were a few changes that I did make. One was the environmental impact statement section 275-56GG, and all I added was that the board may issue a special permit for a larger principal resort building if the following conditions are satisfied. And the second condition was not only that the submission of a draft environmental impact statement, but that the planning board actually complete the environmental review process. That was implicit, but I wanted to make that clear that we weren't just going to submit the DEIS, but had to complete the environmental review before you made any such changes. I made a change to paragraph 275-56GG for the resort. And I don't know if you disagree with this or not. We're on the building height for the resort, that the structure shall be 3 stories or 40 feet, whichever is less. Only because I thought you could have a 3-story building designed in a way that is much higher than 40 feet. I don't know if you disagree.
We certainly agree. We certainly agree.
And the other, we're just cleaning up, tidying up the law so it's more clear. In light of the fact that we do have an amended law, so to speak, we really can't close the public hearing tonight because the local law has to be on the desk of the board for a period of 7 days before you vote on it. So if we could make, someone could make a motion to accept the amended local law as the attorney to the town has amended it. That will be the new local law, which is virtually identical with those changes. I'd like to see it put on the website, so if it changes anybody's mind about the local law, and I don't think it is, we would keep the public hearing open till the next meeting, can reopen it, and if there's any more comments, we would take those and then close the public hearing at the next meeting. But there'll be no time period after that for submission for 10 days. That will be the end of the comment period. I feel better if we proceeded in that matter. So
I will make that motion.
okay.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So now we have the revised local law, which will now be the local law. We don't have to, in my opinion, we send it down to county planning. There's really nothing major or substantive that I think they would comment on. One comment on the county planning comments, I really, to be honest, think they went well beyond their scope of review on these. The intent of sending it to county planning is for them to consider the broader impacts of the municipal local law on the county and the neighborhood. This is just sort of a comment that you get from a planner. However, I got it late this afternoon.
Yeah.
I sent it on to Frank. We're going to take another look at it and just see if there's any merit to any of the comments or anything that we have to do, which would result in a tweaking of the local law. So we haven't neglected it. There's no obligation on our part to follow the recommendation. We do not have to respond to this. It's probably likely that we will not make any changes to the local law as a result of the comments, but I'd just like to make it clear that we are going to take a look at that. We'll make any recommendations. And with that, I think that we are set for simply to adjourn the public hearing to the next town board meeting. Everybody agree?
We want to keep it open? Or
Keep it open.
keep it, so we're going to keep the public hearing open, but we will adjourn it until the next meeting.
I move that we do that.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And at the next meeting, I'm anticipating that Frank and Taylor will take us through the part 2 and part 3 of the environmental assessment form. We'll finish our environmental review. If we're not going to be making any changes to the local law, other than maybe a typographical change, if we have to do that, then we can vote on it and enact the local law at the next meeting, and I'll have a resolution prepared for you to have that. for you to do.
Great. And may I ask, is the next meeting is
Yeah,
it,
that's a good question. I just wanna make
when
sure
is
I
the
have
next?
that.
It's September 15th.
16.
16? Okay.
16, okay, September 16, right.
At
very good.
7:05 PM, is that-
7:05?
Okay. So we will have the EAF documents to you prior to then.
Okay,
Thank you.
great. Thank you, everybody.
Okay,
Thank you, guys.
all. All right. Bye-bye now.
Thank you.
Yeah. Let's go back then to the approval of the minutes and the town clerk report.
Okay, before I do that, Judy sent a thank you card to the town board and she wanted me to read it. Dear town board, thank you very much for the lovely party, the gorgeous face and the beautiful flowers. It was a very unexpected and very nice surprise that I will always cherish. All the best to all of you, Judy. Okay, then I have the acceptance of the July town clerk's report, the July 12th workshop minutes, and the July 15th town board minutes.
On the workshop minutes, we should spell Tamburino correctly. And the donations made to Mindy Alfred, is that with the Stissing Center? Is she with Connection?
She was, yeah, that was, we thought at first she was going to collect them, but then that changed after this.
Oh,
In
okay.
other words, but
Oh,
that,
so
yeah,
that was part of that.
it was.
Well, okay, fine. Okay, all right. And then on the July 15th minutes, I think that when we mentioned Frank Fish and Taylor Young, we should include of BFJ planning and that they were present by Zoom. License needs a different S instead of C.
I would say that they are from BFJ. Are you just saying change?
Does it say that they're from BFJ?
Yeah, from BFJ planning
Oh,
for
yeah.
the meeting and discuss. Yeah.
Why didn't I say
An amended one, it does say,
Oh,
amended.
yeah.
There's
that? No, I
two.
haven't amended it. Let's see, am I-
Talking about the second paragraph from the bottom, right?
Second on the bottom. Oh, yeah, but when you first mention them, that's where it should be done. Right, so we know who they are from the beginning, that they're there.
Says Frank Fish and Taylor Young from
At the
BFJ
bottom.
planning. Oh, at the,
At the
okay.
bottom, let's get it.
Okay.
I'm so sorry to be stickler, but people shouldn't be left hanging like, and that they were present by Zoom. I think it's relevant that Zoom meetings, people who are there by Zoom should be mentioned on that.
Okay, great.
Um,
Can we spell Officer Bellavo's name correctly?
Oh, okay, yes, let's do that. And on the second page, the second paragraph, with the board discussed in previous meetings, has a bad view of traffic and could be unsafe. It just should be restated in a way that's clearer. And I don't know what markers area means when I'm talking about the library wants to apply for a grant for $10,000 for makers area.
Makers
What
area.
is that?
We had defined it when we had the meeting, and it's an area where kids can build things.
It's just that somebody reading this 10 years from now will have no idea what the makers area is, and it should be specified what it is.
Oh, it's in craft area.
Fine.
Okay, no, but there you go.
Beautiful, yes, because makers area doesn't mean anything to, means something to us because we know what it was, but. All right, with those additions, I would move that we adopt the minutes from July 15th, July 12th, and the clerk's report.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Natalie. And now to the approval of the bills.
We have general bill number 18612 through 18654, highway bills number 18655 through 18673, and water bills 3059 through 3063.
I move that we approve those bills.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you again. Okay, Supervisor Statement. I'm having a hard time narrowing things down for the statement this month because there's so much going on. But this past month, we launched an inquiry into how people in town feel about the town allowing a marijuana dispensary and or lounge as a business in town. We've received more than 40 responses so far. Town Park awaits the fountain, which requires a special machine to get it into the site, and a fix for the stone pathway that will secure the material so that feet and wheelchairs can use it. The demolition of 8 and 12 North Main began with asbestos removal and should be totally done within the next 2 weeks. We finished holding the 2 scoping meetings for the Hudson Valley project at the high school and received a very warm thank you from the Durst organization on the efforts of the town board and the school in working together to host this meeting. These meetings offered an opportunity for people to get up and ask for things to be studied as a part of the work that must be done to figure out the impact of such a project on the town. The meetings are on YouTube at our planning board site as well as the town board site. But in general, the comments added up to some really thoughtful and thorough thinking on the impact of the development on town life. They also opened up the written comments for an additional 10 days after the meeting. That's now over. I'm looking forward to meeting with the county, their new broadband consultant whom they hired with money from the rescue plan, and the 3 surrounding towns of Milan, Stanfordville, and Millerton on how we might get together to receive grant money to build out the rest of our broadband service in Northern Dutchess in a shared effort. This should take place the first week of September. The completed final sewers feasibility study has just been sent in to us. And the next step is a public meeting to present the findings to everyone. That will hopefully take place in September or early October. The zoning review committee has completed its work for this year. And if you recall, we are also looking to pass a law here to make our zoning a living document so that we can convene the committee yearly to review any problems that become known. A hugely successful camp season's concluded, and the girls 10 and under softball team well represented us at the state finals and came home to a wonderful celebration at the Sissing Center. And that's just some of the things we accomplished this month. Okay, public comment on anything? Nope. All right, thank you very much. And I'm going to turn it over to Warren again.
Okay, so the marijuana legislation. So I do understand that you had a informational meeting, got some input on what you want to do. Just for the record, and there is I provided you with sort of a set of talking points and a memorandum from the Office of Cannabis Management explaining the law. And I think you put that out for public dissemination.
I did.
But I'm just going to review it quickly so that everybody understands what has happened. In March of 2021, the governor signed the Marijuana Regulation and Taxation Act, which legalized adult use cannabis, also known as marijuana, in New York State. The legislation creates a new Office of Cannabis Management governed by a Cannabis Control Board to oversee and implement the law. And the OCM will be issuing licenses and developing regulations concerning how businesses can operate and how they can be regulated. We're anticipating that it's going to take probably a couple of years for that to be done. For the towns, we're kind of on a short leash. The cities, towns, and villages can opt out only for two parts of the law. One is to the law allowing adult use cannabis retail establishments, and the other is on-site consumption or lounges, we call it. If the town does nothing by December 31st, then it's opted in. And what that means is that in the town of Pine Plains, both retail establishment and lounges will be permitted. And we cannot opt out at a later date. If they are permitted, the town will then have to formulate regulations as part of the amendments to our zoning code to regulate where these retail facilities can be located, how they're going to operate, as long as we don't step on the toes of what's already been regulated by state law, and as long as our regulations are not unreasonable. And the same goes for the lounges. As a matter of caution, I've created two local laws for you. One is a local law opting out of the retail establishments, and the other is opting out of the lounges. I think the safest course of action, my recommendation, would be to start the local law adoption process tonight, set it down for a public hearing, to opt out of both. Then you'll have public hearing on both local laws. You'll get more input from the public. And then you can make a final decision after the public hearing on whether you want to go forward with pulling both local laws, in which case lounges and retail establishments will be permitted, or pulling one of them.
So we could do retail, but not lounges.
Correct. You can do,
and-
or vice versa. You could do lounges, not retail. To be honest, the issue of lounges has become the most problematic for most municipalities. It's the retail. We've had some experience in other states, such as Massachusetts, on how that works and what the implications are and what the impacts will be. I don't think they have any lounges. They don't permit lounges in Massachusetts. That's really kind of an unknown quantity. But this way you'll keep your options open. We've already gotten some input from the public. I suggest we have a public hearing at the next meeting, because if we do opt out, that would be the passage of one or both of those local laws are technically subject to a permissive referendum, which means that somebody could challenge that local law by getting a petition together that meets the statutory requirements for petitions, and it has to be filed within 45 days of the passage of the law at the meeting. If nothing is filed within that 45-day period, the local law comes into effect. If a petition is filed, we would have to conduct a permissive referendum. The law is clear in this area is very muddled. There are 3 different statutes with regard to the conduct of permissive referendums in the state of New York. The one which I think applies is section 24 of the Municipal Home Rule Law, which states that the permissive referendum, if it's not on the ballot, has to be done by special election. There is no time to put it on the ballot.
We can't, that was my next question. We
That's gone.
missed that up.
Time period is too short. The Dutchess County has already stated that from the date of what is it? November 6th is or 2nd?
Second.
Second, going back 90 days, they're not putting anything else on the ballot that's not already put on. So there's no chance to put it on the ballot. If somebody does file successfully a petition, and they're not easy to file because they have to be done right and the town has to approve it, we would then hold a special election. That area is muddled too, I have to tell you. I've contacted the Association of Towns Council's office, and to be honest, they think the time period for even having a special election is gone. I don't think so. So I put in our law that if a referendum is called for, it'll be by special election. And then we would have to conduct a special election, which is an expensive process for the town. And that would have to be done by December 31st in order for our law to pass muster. So I've prepared for you the 2 local laws opting out, the 2 resolutions adopting the local law for purposes of moving forward with the local law adoption process. I've given you the talking points and also part 1 of the environmental assessment form for both laws. If you agree, then I would recommend that you enact both resolutions tonight, setting it down for a public hearing, keeping totally your options open as to what you're going to be doing. That way you're not committing yourselves to anything by doing that tonight.
I did my homework as I was assigned on Monday night, and I did reach the mayor of Gunnison, Colorado. So I had an hour-long discussion with him today on the subject. He's a wonderful guy. And I would say he sounded quite a bit older. So he said, first of all, that they have not passed a lounge. And they don't think that's likely. And I'll give you the reasons for that in a bit. Well, let me see if I can find it. Okay, why not lounges? They're smoke filled. They couldn't figure out the smoking aspect of it indoors. The product must be consumed on premises. You can't take it home. So it encourages overconsumption. And at what level do you really get stoned is an issue for the police. It's a setup for impairment. So technically is a bar, but that is why they are not doing any lounges.
That's just in that jurisdiction.
In that
Colorado. That's their thinking.
In Gunnison, yes. So Colorado passed their marijuana law in 2013.
When
2013. They do not have a limitation on the number of licenses. Anybody can get a license. So what popped up was mom and pop stores. So a lot of stores, you know, anybody, it's like a liquor store. In New York, there are only 700.
I thought it was either 500 or 700.
It's
It's something like
700.
that, you know.
Only 700 licenses are going to be issued.
Is that for,
The
That's for
entire
retail.
state.
That's for
is that for
Just for
retail?
the dispensary, yes.
Okay.
That and how they choose who gets one. Nobody exactly knows, but the thinking is that will be kind of regional distribution. You know, so that's a question. So what he said was, oh, they've introduced an excise tax on it as well, that the town put on it 5 cents. And the reason they did that, and with their sales tax money and the additional 5 cents, they've used it for mitigation of the impact of whatever's coming down the line. What they found was that this situation, that the marijuana law occurred at the same time that mental health started going down in the area. They can't make a connection to it, but that's what happened. So they are 90 minutes from any mental health facility. So we're 45 minutes. So what they've done is they've taken this money and they've set up mental health services in Gunnison. So I thought that was just a really interesting use of the sales tax money and the excise tax that they're requiring. They've kept it out of central business district. So it's on the outskirts. With the, also with the sales tax, they added an additional police, created a program for health and welfare for school kids, a drug and a suicide mental health service. His opinion was that kids in crisis will already turn to marijuana and alcohol. When it was illegal and people experimented, this was an interesting perspective. When it was illegal and people experimented, there was this rhetoric around the drug. And what those people discovered was that the, reefer madness version of marijuana use was fake news, if I can use that term, and that it wasn't that. And in Jim's opinion, that led to doubt as to the rhetoric around more severe drugs like heroin and meth. So it ruined the credibility of the advice and the authority. So to him, and he used this term, he said the gateway drug was these lies. It wasn't marijuana, which I thought was a very interesting thing for somebody to say. They have a college in town. He thought that prior to adoption, he smelled marijuana on more 20-year-olds. And now he doesn't smell it at all. He thinks vaping is not healthy in any way for any product, no matter what you smoke. They added restrictions like no sale below 21, nothing near schools. We already have this in place. Selling it just like alcohol.
Well, New York didn't pass vaping, right? Isn't that like a process way of doing it? I thought that the vape pens were still,
I don't know anything about vaping.
okay. I don't know either, but I thought that the vape pens weren't okay.
It might just be taxed at a higher rate. So
Because I thought it was only flour.
use the term concentrates.
He said when it was illegal, they bought it anyway. And I think those are the main points that he made that I thought were really relevant to us. They have it's a town of 6,000 in the mountains, very similar in the sense they have no big highway going through or any kind of, they're very isolated. So I just wanted to report on my homework.
That's interesting.
Is there anything else anyone kind of came up with?
Yeah, I don't know if I emphasized, if you opt out for both or one, you can opt in next year or a later date, so.
I noticed that Northeast opted out.
Well, we haven't voted on it yet.
Well, it was in the paper.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter if you vote.
Reported incorrectly. So far, in Northeast, we started the local law adoption process for both,
Mhm.
same process. We have not had the public hearing and they haven't made a decision. I don't know.
It was in the
I don't know.
newspaper today.
I don't know.
Well,
what
That they had.
Right.
You must have scheduled the public hearing to have the
Yeah, I think it
the
was just,
opt-out law.
that probably was reported. And we've also started the process in Rhinebeck, same thing. Both local laws, and then we'll make a decision. And Hyde Park will be doing the same thing.
It's just really important for the public to understand that if we present these laws, that we have not made the decision on them, and we want to hear. And the reason we're having the laws, setting up the laws is so that we can have the public hearing. And then we can make the decision. So it's really, this board has not decided anything about whether we're gonna go forward with one or both. And we need to wait and hear from the public
Well, if we're
additionally.
doing it for the public hearing, can we opt in for one and opt out for
Yes.
the other?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
definitely.
Because I would, for
Because
the
that's what we
public
have
hearing,
two
I
laws.
would like to opt in for the retail dispensaries, opt out for the lounges. Because if there's only 500 going out, of these things, time could be the essence of one of these people to file a report, file
Exactly.
and get a license.
I agree with you entirely.
So, I mean, I don't know how the rest of you guys feel, but I mean, I'm willing to make a motion that we open it for a public hearing next
Yeah, move
meeting,
forward
opting
with
in.
those, but you're not
Yes.
making any.
No, we're not making, but
That's-
I'm just making a motion of we opt in for retail and we opt out for lounges. And then we can have the public,
Well, the way I've written it is you're opting out of both.
You have
but
to opt
but you
out of
can
both.
always- you
no,
can
we don't
always
have to
withdraw
opt
one
out
of
of
them
both.
after
We're
the public hearing.
preparing to create
Okay.
laws that opt us
The
out.
law-
Okay,
the law
okay.
needs
But we
to
can
say
choose
you're
to
opting
You're
out.
not making
Time
that
to do
decision
this.
I
tonight,
got
you're
you.
just leaving those two options open and hearing from the public.
Okay.
And if we don't do it tonight,
So
we're
people
not
will
gonna have
That's
time to
exactly-
get this
that's-
finished by
that's-
December
That's
31st.
exactly right. And.
I don't know why they did this. It's such a crazy short
Yeah,
time
all right,
period.
well,
Well, I do know.
They want the money.
Yeah,
They want everybody to opt in. That's
right.
all right, I think that we're good for that. So what do we have to do?
So what we need
tonight?
is a motion to pass both the resolutions. and,
I would move that we pass both resolutions to opt out on the marijuana law.
And schedule, and this public hearing will be scheduled for same date, our next meeting
September 16th.
at, how about 7:30 or 7:20?
Okay,
Why don't we do 7:20?
I'll second that motion.
And I'll do a public hearing notice.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, we'll see.
Two public hearings, we should get a crowd next month.
I know.
And in Massachusetts, my understanding is it is very expensive to get approval for those licenses. The process is, I think they have to put up a lot of upfront money. It's not there are no ma and pa.
No,
Yeah, but if you drive by
operations.
those,
They're very sophisticated
they're
operations.
all New York State plates.
Right.
And they all pretty much either drive by Pine Plains or through Pine Plains
Might as well capture
to
some of
get
that.
there, yes. So,
well, we had a really good discussion on Monday, I thought. And one of the things that was in our discussion was an analysis done by an entrepreneur for a dispensary, which had a lot of the details of that, how many licenses there might be, and the security that's required and things like that,
Oh,
and
yes.
medical marijuana. So if anyone's interested, they should look at that discussion. It's up on the YouTube.
I guess that's the other thing for people to know in preparation for the hearing, but should we allow one or both of those types of activities, we would still have control over how they're zoned within this community.
Exactly.
Yeah, he had Jim Gelwicks was his name. Had some ideas of things we should basically really look at, including quantity that you can hold, which I thought was good, but what he's found was also that with a dispensary, people took it home. And with the lounge, the fear was that they consumed it right away. And with it being legal and at a dispensary, people tended to take it home and not consume it right away, which was helping with driver impairment. Another surprising kind of tidbit that I did not expect. Okay,
Good, so you have the resolution, okay, and I'll get you public hearing notices, just remind me if you don't hear from me.
okay. And I should post both of those up on the website, okay.
with the informational sheet and all, everything.
Actually, they are on the website. They are on the website. I did that last time. Okay. Do you want to go to the standing zoning review committee?
Yeah. So I prepared a resolution. I don't know if we made any changes to it, but I did prepare a resolution.
I did. I sent you the changes yesterday.
I don't know if I have the one. That showed the changes. Really crazy.
7, the changes are, it's a committee of 7
Instead of, what do we have?
instead of 9.
9.
And it's a committee of 7, then the terms are 3, 2, and 3, right? 3, 2, and 3, 2, and 2. 3, 2, and 2. So
3, 2.
Yeah.
3, 2, I'm sorry.
3, 2, and 2 for the terms.
3, 2, and 2.
Yeah, the 3-year term, a 2-year term, and a 2-year term for 3, 2, 1
Okay.
year terms.
But otherwise, it's the same as the other.
You gotta make that work with the number of people on the
That's what we
committee.
just said. There's 7 people on the committee,
committee, right?
3, 2, and 2 for the breakdown of years.
Right.
And there was one more.
That's semi-annual versus,
Annual
annual
rather
versus
than
semi-annual.
Thank you.
All right, I have your changes, so I'll put that in the final form. So, I mean, basically what it does is create a standing zoning review committee, which is, I think, a good idea. And they would be charged with studying and making reports on possible revisions to the zoning law. And you have a requirement that they can report to you on an annual basis. But you can refer things to them on an ad hoc basis and have them report back to you. We have one in Rhinebeck, and it's been helpful. So,
I'd really like to get that.
so if you make a motion to pass the resolution as amended by you, and I'll get it to final form.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
We need a roll call on this. No. All in favor?
Right.
Aye.
And then when you get a chance, you'll have to appoint members. I don't know if you're gonna advertise or how you're gonna do that.
Great, thank you very much.
No problem.
And then we have to 8 until 12 North Main, especially.
Yeah, did you vote on that?
I think we just have to
Yeah.
approve
Yeah, I
We have to
prepared,
approve the change order.
change.
Right.
I prepared a resolution for the change order for
Mhm.
the asbestos removal of 12 North Main Street. And the problem, as we all know, was that the town hired a company to do an asbestos survey of the property. And apparently they neglected to test fully the shingles on the 12 North Main Street. So that when it came to, and everybody was, all the contractors were given that survey. So everybody was on an even keel with the wrong information. And the successful contractor who bid on that, once started working, realized that there was much more to the asbestos removal. I discussed this and thought about it and dealt with Ray on this. And given the fact that all of the bids relied upon the same information, that I didn't feel it needed to be rebid, and we could add the additional amount, $37,000.
39.
39, which we have in our budget, through a change order. It doesn't create a new contract, and it doesn't put the unsuccessful bidders in a disadvantaged position because they have the same information. So just prepare a resolution approving the change order, and you also.
Okay, it was a typo on Madeline's spelling of Madeline's
Okay.
name.
Medellin.
Change that, I apologize.
So is there anywhere that we could get money back from the Quest?
I don't know,
For, you know,
I haven't
faulty-
I have an
Yeah,
idea.
Okay, you know, like
Yes.
now that,
Dara and I spoke about it, so whether you want to discuss it now or.
You want to discuss it in executive session? Okay, we should do it in executive
Yes.
session.
Okay, so are we passing this?
I would like to,
So we are
with
waiting,
Madeline's name being spelled.
Yes.
correctly.
Yes.
we have a motion, we're waiting to vote.
we need a motion.
We need a motion.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Great, thank you very much.
Go back to the original owner. Second.
All right. That was yeoman's work. Thank you, sir. We're on to the highway, the department report. Highway?
On the table, I believe in that manila folder, there's a list of the bids, which I also did email out to everyone. We did receive as well as a list of my recommendations. So we do need to vote on that tonight. You can decide to accept or reject those based on their recommendations. And I believe I left a couple up to you with regards to propane and the mid-grade gasoline.
Does anyone have any thoughts on?
The propane was just basically whether we're gonna do it as one bid or two, or do a separate bid for the library.
Right, yeah, I think the lowest bidder was Crown. And that would be, you would have to split it out by supplier should you decide to do that. At the highway garage, we use it for our standby generator, and I think maybe we've had it filled once or twice in the 8 years that I've been there. So we're not a high consumer, it's definitely in the library.
Definitely the library.
And then the mid-grade gasoline, of course, is, we're just going to accept that, hopefully with anticipation that we're going to be able to put that tank back into service. And again, it's, what did I say there? Same thing, whether or not you wish to keep the same supplier as the fuel oil and unleaded diesel, that would be staying with Valley, or to go with the low bidder, I believe, which was Crown.
What do you think? We've done this before. We split the.
Right, I have no problem
Yeah, I think you.
splitting it, I mean, that way. And but the propane, I don't see any reason why we should split that between the two facilities, right?
Oh, no, yeah, whoever
Oh.
you decide would take both.
Both of them, oh,
Yeah,
okay.
would take all of the locations
Right.
in town, yeah,
And
absolutely.
have we talked at all about service?
Yes. We're, if and when we go with Valley Energy, they have a service program. And since that was your recommendation to go with Valley, right?
If we, right, they're the low bidder on the fuel.
Right,
or, I mean, the
then,
heating.
I think it makes sense to get the service program. We have a maintenance plan
I
now.
mean, is it dependent at all on them? I mean, we're intending on doing Valley for
For the heating.
for the
yes.
heating oil,
Yeah.
okay. But I mean, can we, since that wasn't as part of the original bid, and that's something they offered, is that correct to say?
Um,
Do we have to bid for a service contract?
well, it's only either $2.99 or $3.99.
For the year.
Yeah,
Total cost for the year?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I thought it would be. much more.
24-hour emergency service, annual tune-up, efficiency evaluation, and since it's brand new, and they installed it.
So that doesn't include the straight time they bill us when they did maintenance as well, right? Or is that?
This does, this would be that.
Oh.
Yeah, we wouldn't get another bill. But the $2.99 is the comfort protection plan, as opposed to the Comfort Plus protection plan, which is
But
$3.99.
what about emergency service, call
Yeah,
outs?
24 emergency hour.
Is that in both
emergency.
of them or just one?
Yes,
But at that rate, we wouldn't have to bid it.
No.
Okay, so.
and they know the boiler because they installed it.
And it is installed and up and running. That was part of my other report. It's complete working. We have hot water.
All right.
Yes.
Well, I would move that we accept,
I would say, I think all we need is this one this year.
yes,
Just because it's
minimum,
brand new.
the
Yeah,
minimum,
the minimum.
contract,
Okay,
and that we go with them.
We go with them for oil,
Yes.
fuel oil, and
So we take
What
Heather's
else?
recommendations and then we move
Right.
for Crown, the lowest bidder for
the
mid-grade
propane.
gasoline and propane.
Can I have a second?
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
My office will generate the letters of award to the bidders as well as the ones that are not.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome, thank you. So that takes care of that. Now, the auction I concluded last month. I don't believe we've received the funds yet from that, but they are usually a month behind. But I do have an issue that with the truck body, the dump truck body. The bidder for that item did pay for it. When they came to pick it up, they found that it was much larger than they anticipated and they don't want it. So we don't lose money. We still collected the money. I forgot what it was, $990 for that. However, they have relinquished ownership back to the town, so we still own it. The auction company has asked, what do we want to do with it? Do we want to try and auction it off again? Do you want to just scrap it? Obviously, I don't want it around the yard. We've already been paid for it. If we want to auction it, and this is a question for Warren, I don't know the legalities behind it, but the auctioneer asked if we wanted to auction it off again because we've already been paid, if there may be any consideration for a partial refund to this particular individual who bid and couldn't use it. And that's totally, if it's allowable by law, that's up to you guys. So I'm just asking, what should we do with this? Because it's ours now, it's still in the yard. We did get the money for it. What do you want to do?
I mean,
Is there a second bidder? The
No.
auction company?
They contacted the next bidder down to
Mhm.
see if they could work internally and that they weren't
Didn't work,
interested in
okay.
it. No, so the gentleman who bid on it was very nice and said, you know what? I didn't read completely. I should have looked at it, and he knew what he did. He's bid before, so he was full aware of what happened.
Well, I feel bad for
well, that's what I'm saying. I would be okay with putting it out to auction and giving the guy all his, if it sells, giving the guy all his money back. But that's just me. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
$90, then
It-
we would keep.
Because he obviously has a small business that he thought that this was gonna help his business with, and
This
Now,
is how
is
you
that,
learn.
is that?
yeah, I got you.
Yeah, Warren, is that allowable?
How much we talked about?
900.
$990.
So what have he bid on it and then decided he
It's
didn't
too
need it?
big, it's too big, you
It
can't
was-
use it.
But
Yeah,
he paid us for it?
Yes.
Yes.
$900.
But then he gave it back to us,
He gave it back to us.
so we can re-auction it, and
I'm not,
I really,
I'm fine if you
Okay.
re-auction it. give it back.
I mean, I think that's the right
Or
thing to
something,
do.
Yeah,
or
or
something.
something.
It may not be the legal. it's a
50%
moral.
restocking fee.
The stocking fee, right,
Exactly.
we can
Shelf.
charge a storage fee.
No, I mean, we'll see what the next bid is.
Okay, so if you
And
want me to
decide
go ahead and
from there.
list it again, and then I'll come back to you and we'll see where we go from there.
What's it
worth the scrap?
Thank you.
I don't know what it weighs. I didn't entertain that idea because we had it sold, so I can
Right.
definitely find out. If nobody bids on it and you really want to get rid of it, that may be the option is just scrap it and then do it. But I will.
There's
relist it
no
with
cost to
you.
us of
No
auctioning
cost.
it again. No.
Not at all. It's all, the buyer pays for all of that. So I'll relist it and we'll see what happens. Reporting on the road improvement projects, they are now complete. Also in that folder is an amended agreement for expenditures. I know we discussed last month about the extra funds that were anticipated from CHIPS. In order, and I did get a quote for Willowvale, which we discussed. It does look like with whatever the fluctuations are, we should still be okay. We have anticipated $76,927.63 in CHIPS funds available. The estimate that I've obtained for the paving of Willowvale is about 72,000. So given the asphalt price index increase, we're around there, but I still do have funds available in the general fund if it does go over. In order for me to expend these funds, I do need, because it's an additional project, I would need the amended agreement for expenditure signed again. This is the second amendment. And there are 2 copies in that folder there for you if you so desire, if you want me to do that. the contractor, I did check with them. They are pretty certain, barring any weather emergencies, that they should be able to get that done before the fall. So I know everybody's trying to cram in the rest of their projects and spend the money whatever they can.
I'm embarrassed to ask, but what's the status of the bridge on there?
The bridge.
Oh, it's
done.
gorgeous.
You haven't seen it? Oh, it's
Oh,
beautiful.
Don, you should go because it was your idea and Heather's idea.
No, it's beautiful.
No,
Oh,
I
it's
just-
fabulous.
The county-
It's all finished, all done, all
Yeah,
cleaned up,
it's not, there
beautiful.
is a stop, and I put this on Facebook, there is a two-way stop on either side, of course, because it is a one-lane bridge.
Mhm.
There's a property owner on the road that is having a problem with residents, motorists speeding on the road as usual, and or running through the stop sign. So the county was called out, the engineers are working up a plan to get additional signage there, so that we will warn individuals that they need to stop. But other than that, and that's why Willowvale, the road itself is in need of improvement, and what better time to do it, the bridge is done.
Yeah.
I don't want to encourage more traffic or speeding down that road, but the road does need to be done.
It's just beautiful.
You might
Very
mention it
solar.
to our police force.
Oh, I did, they're well, he's right there. He's well, they're on
The
it.
only almost time you can spend on that road with
Yeah, how much
the
traffic?
amount of traffic. I sat down there for an hour and 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And there may have been 3 cars that went by. I don't know what we stopped for. The problem is, there's really no place to sit there. It's like, obviously, everybody's gonna be in their best behavior when mom and dad are watching.
Right.
It's when you leave the house to go to Stewart real quick that they turn down the living room.
I was wondering if you shouldn't have a yield sign on one side and the stop sign on the other side.
That's all up to the county on that one. They developed that traffic
Okay,
plan. Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Because when nobody's coming, the site distance view is fine.
Oh, absolutely.
And
Yeah.
so it's really kind of, you might not really be inclined to stop if there's nobody coming. Whatever.
I don't know what their plans are for additional signage, but I do know that they're working on it.
You still have to kind of slow down there to get across.
Well,
the
it's a
bridge, 'cause
narrow bridge,
yeah,
it's
it comes-
narrow, so
comes that-
it's not something I think you would be apt to
blow
speed
through
on.
it.
You would be surprised. It
I
happened to
know,
me when
I
I was
know.
down there. Yeah, it's definitely surprising. I already reported about the boiler installation. My last part of my report is that I just wanted to let you know that I've received and accepted a letter of resignation from my last hired HMEO, Damon Potts. At this point in time, I'd like to ask to go into executive session with everyone to discuss some personnel issues.
Can you hang out with
Oh,
us
yeah,
again? Yeah,
absolutely.
that'd be great.
Well, I would move that we permit Heather to go ahead with that project.
Willowvale,
Oh, we already signed it. Well, I
Oh.
signed it.
Oh, okay, oh, fine.
We just had to sign it, right?
that's it. Sign
Yeah.
in duplicate, and then I'll give Madeline a copy to file, and I'll send it off to the town.
Okay.
And
manager.
I just want to point out to the board though as well, how Heather is saying that it's hard to find work. Where the town of Ankrum, our neighbor in town, just released that they are now looking for drivers because they cannot find, looking for workers at $26.50 an hour plus benefits. Because that's how hard it is in the workforce right now to find good quality workers. So, like, we want to have workers, we have to compete with the people around. So in your defense there, that it's not a $20, like, in order to show up to, you need skilled workers,
In order to
they,
get- in order to
Yeah.
attract, recruit, and retain, we need to.
I just want to put, and that's our town, that's our neighbor in town, who they have a smaller highway department than us, I believe, and they can't find enough to keep on staff with current, so just to put that up there.
Do you happen to know if the employees pay for their health insurance? Yeah, I thought they did.
No, in Ankrum, they pay, the town, I believe, the town pays for 100% of the premium for the employee. Any difference if they opt for a family plan, I'm not sure exactly what their percentages of what they pay for that. The town doesn't pay for 100%. But they also do have a high deductible plan where the town will fund the entire deductible. And this is maybe hearsay, want to check that out for sure, but I did have a brief discussion with the superintendent about the benefits that are offered. Right now, Karen, my secretary, is doing a comparable analysis of all of our neighboring municipalities for me when I do the budget numbers. However, they're not all back right now, and this issue that we're dealing with, that I'm now losing a man, and we are August, and you know how fast the time flies, getting someone in, getting them trained, or hopefully getting someone who has the experience and getting them in. We need to discuss this position that's open and the salary more than anything. So again, that's why I'm asking to go. into that.
Thank you, Heather.
You're welcome. That's all I have. Does anyone have anything for me?
Can I pass these to you? So otherwise I'll lose them.
Thank you.
Can I make a point about Heather's problem with help? I get it. The school recently started, like every year now, when we go back to school, they give us a breakdown of our salary, benefits, health insurance, retirement, everything, total compensation. They list it all out for you. And it kind of makes you stop and think, like, wow, that's a lot of money. Makes you think a little differently about what you're receiving other than just your paycheck. So it might be something at least to point out to them that, you know, this is what you're actually getting.
Yeah,
Not just that paycheck on Friday, but don't forget this too.
I think that one of the things that Heather and I have been working on for years actually is just getting clarity to the guys about what they actually do get.
Yeah.
Because other towns look like they have a higher salary, but they pay into their health insurance. So, you know, how does it come out? But we are low. Okay, thank you.
Floor.
Okay. I apologize, I didn't get my monthly report out to you earlier than this. I was on vacation last week, too, so.
I had a nice tan.
We didn't run to Newport, it was great.
Oh, that's right, you told me that.
Yeah. We had a good time.
Were there any boat races?
No, no races that I saw. But, so things are staying pretty much the same. It's busy, 7 permits for the month of July brings a total of 42, as you can see down below. One more than last year and considerably more than it has been in past years. And they're breaking ground now at Stisson condos, so the numbers are only gonna go way up, so. 2 new homes to date, 2 COs issued, 3 CO searches done, 18 site inspections performed. I still have a couple properties I'm working on with maintenance issues. I feel bad a little bit for the property owners because I keep hearing the same thing. You know, I called 3 guys, 1 guy showed up. He never got back with a price for me. Nobody can find anyone to do anything. So I think there's a gentleman in New Jersey who owns a house up here. He inherited it. I think he's really is trying and just cannot find anyone else. So, supposedly it's supposed to be done this week, but we'll see.
Oh, boy. Okay.
Where it stands.
Any questions? Great, thank you.
Thank you.
I forgot, you didn't do a resolution.
On the Stisson Farms, right? Yeah, I was wondering where that went.
Just, we have another resolution that we have to vote on tonight. This is in conjunction with Stisson Farm, that you mentioned that. It's just a resolution authorizing the town supervisor to accept the site improvement bond and accept and execute a security agreement for the construction of various improvements associated with the completion of the Stisson Farms Townhouse condominium project. So as you all know, the planning board passed a resolution approving the amended site plan for the condominium development. And it's conditioned on the developer providing a performance guarantee secured by a bond in the amount of $368,200. Currently, we have a certificate of deposit with Salisbury Bank and Trust, which had been posted as the security. I don't remember how much money, but it's considerably less, 100 and something.
Over 150.
150,000. And we had used that as security. I felt much more comfortable having a traditional bond and a security agreement. They have provided that to us. I reviewed them. They're acceptable to us. So this is just a resolution authorizing the supervisor to sign the security agreement, accept the bond. And then when that's fully executed, I will notify Salisbury Bank that they can release the hold we have on the certificate of deposit.
That money, okay.
So move.
Second,
All in favor?
Aye.
Warren, do you know, did they post escrow for the construction phase?
I'm sorry.
Did they post the escrow for the construction phase? Developer for inspection services and so forth? Do you recall that they've done that or not?
You mean something, I don't know. You mean funded the escrow account?
Correct.
I don't know. What was the requirement in the resolution?
It was in the planning board resolution.
Oh, I
Um,
don't know if they've done that. So we should check to see what it.
Yeah, now that, again, now that construction's starting,
I still have the permit, so.
Okay.
Okay,
Hold on to those.
Well, I'm sure I'm gonna be here from their attorney and I'll mention the
Okay.
escrow.
Is that a full build out of
Yeah.
the original plan?
yes.
Yes. 38 more.
It
Great.
didn't change up on the top?
They had to move one unit. There's the two duplex units right now. There's supposed to be a duplex in the middle. That's been changed to a single.
Somebody's tape was short. Yes, I remember that.
That's the only change in configuration.
great, thank you. Thank you. Police department. Michael, do you want to read this or you want me? Okay.
Okay, so the monthly activity for the Plainfield Police Department for the month of July. Hours are as follows: court, 15.5 hours, patrol, 177.5 hours, discovery, 0, administrative was 33, investigations 2, school 0, training 33 hours, details 5 hours, and vehicle and other were 10 for a total of 276 hours. Complaints, there were 20 complaints answered. There were 40 traffic warnings issued with 36 traffic tickets issued and 2 arrests. 498 shifts for the month of July. All shifts were covered plus additional 4 shifts by Officer Cameron and 2 by myself, for a total of 42 scheduled shifts, or 42 shifts total. And I received 8 hours of instruction for radar lidar instructor, and the entire department was recertified in firearms along with training.
Any questions? Thank you.
Got a nice new whip out there too.
Yeah, I wanted to, John, actually, was one thing John wanted me to say was, say he wanted everyone on the board to check out the new vehicle, but kind of got a little dark out. It came out fantastic. Really nice, nice color scheme with the lettering on it. And it actually will stand out more than any of those vehicles we've had at night with this new lettering. May look a little bit, a little more subtle during the day, but at night, that's when you want to be the most visible. Anyway. So, but I think kind of really well. And the other part would be letters. 165 will be done tomorrow around 2 p.m. And then 167, the car that has to go down sometime next week. I'll schedule as part of that.
Great.
Thank you guys once again. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
Ray,
So with respect to the water department, the monthly water usage in July was steady at 53,000 gallons per day. Water meter maintenance, 2 meter heads replaced and 3 meters were rebuilt. We're actually going to have to go ahead and order additional meter heads. So we have gone through the 24 that we last ordered. They're going on, the meter heads are going on about 14 years of service. So we're going to see more and more of those have to be replaced in the next 6 to 9 months as far as that goes.
Well, even with this new build coming up, you're gonna need.
Yeah, we're going to need more. meters as well.
How do you know when one goes down?
When we go to take our quarterly meter readings, we're actually not getting a signal from it. So the computer program actually identifies that and we get a report indicating that there's no meter reading that was actually recovered. So then we do an investigation and then replace it.
Do we need to authorize you to buy more? Or can you do
No,
that on your own?
yeah, because it's below the threshold. Utility markouts, 3 markouts were performed over the past month. Also took an additional PFOA, PFOS samples for well number 1 and 2. Again, that's the new state requirement that was implemented in 2020. And so this will be our 3rd quarter. We've already made prepared paperwork, and once we get the results for this 3rd quarter, we're going to request to get a reduced monitoring schedule. The fact that we haven't exceeded any of the limits, MCL limits, or any action limits. The wells came out clean again, but we needed to get 3 consecutive sample results before we can request that reduced monitoring. So we've already requested and received back the paperwork from the supervisor that's been signed. So once I get those results back, which should be within the next 2 weeks, we'll go ahead and submit that. And again, I mentioned that I put my budget in. For the upcoming budget, those samples are very expensive, so they're $1,000 per well per quarter. So not knowing what's going to take place in the future, I actually put additional money into the 2022 budget, anticipating, just in case, for whatever reason, they change their mind as far as going to reduce monitoring, and we actually have to monitor every month. So you will notice when you take a look at that 2022 budget review, that it has gone up by a few $1,000s for the upcoming year. Okay. Also in July, Dutchess County Department of Health had conducted their sanitary survey of the water system. No issues were brought to our attention. They were pretty happy with everything. Never know until the actual written report comes out. So that written report actually goes directly to the town supervisor. So we would expect that should be forthcoming within the next week or 2. So, right. So again, just in case I don't always get that, if the supervisor sees that, we can just forward that on there. And again, I have prepared and submitted the proposed 2022 budget for the Pine Plains Water Improvement Area. With respect to engineering items, I provided the supervisor with a sketch for the crosswalk as far as that relocation. So if that's acceptable to the board, I believe that's the general area that was discussed. Town supervisor would have to prepare a request to both the Department of Transportation for 199, but then also Dutchess County DPW for the installation of the no parking signs on North Main Street. Okay.
Where do we get stop for pedestrians and crosswalk signs? Could we add those to these new crosswalks? Because it is a state law that you have to stop for a pedestrian in a crosswalk, and we do not have any of that signage.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you'd
you
have
said
to
that.
make the request to DOT, because again, it's DOT roadway, and on North Main, you need to request Dutchess County Department of Public Works.
Thank you.
All right, so I can do that at the same time.
Yeah, you can do the same thing, correct.
Right, on this, you don't have anything marked out on South Main? Just the 2 signs you've got marked out on.
Yeah, well, I
on
didn't, as far as
Churchill.
an additional crosswalk for.
No, we were talking in terms of putting on no parking beyond this point on South Main also.
Oh,
but
my
the-
apologies, I didn't realize that.
But the problem, well, this was when we were doing it before, maybe not on your recent instructions. But the problem we were having is how do you, the conflict with the signs that were already there. So that's what I was just questioning. This,
What was the intended location? Was it back as far as the old
the old
library?
library,
The old library building?
right where the width begins to the right turn,
Right, okay.
because people were parking in that area there.
Yeah, because I know a lot of people try to use that as basically a turning lane, if you will.
Right.
So we can add that.
But I mean, the problem is, and you'd have to look at it again, is there's a tree of signs right there. And so you would either be putting our sign in front of it or our sign in back of it, and it doesn't,
I'll
it
take a
might
look
be
at it
difficult.
tomorrow morning,
Right,
when
but-
I'm in, and then I'll try to amend that.
Right, this is more important right now with what you've got. But
But if we're gonna go ask for signage, then we
Change,
might as
right,
well just
right.
try to do it all at the same time. So like I said, I'll check in the morning when I come to the water department, and then I'll.
Mhm.
amend them back.
Okay.
If I could interject for a second, as far as talking about signs goes, we've obviously people should be paying attention to signs driving down the road. we received several complaints from people, well, obviously it's when they're pulled over, about I guess my question is, how difficult would it be to get flashing lights for the school zone? Just so from 7 AM to 6 PM, the lights are flashing during school days, not on days there's no school going on, but just so obviously people are supposed to be paying attention to signage anyways, but just to solidify the fact that, okay, well, I don't know what else we can do except for having somebody stand down and wave, say slow down.
I think that's a really good idea.
But I've heard a lot of people complain about that, and I know that there's other places in the state, well, actually all the states that I know of that have those flashing school signs.
You're
Just so-
basically, you're thinking out by the high school.
Yes. yes,
Not over at Cedar.
No, there's really nothing, I've rarely heard of anybody complain about speeding down there, but I've heard people complain about running stop signs, rolling through stop signs, or the quote unquote California stop. As people like to call it, where it's kind of like roll around a corner.
Right.
But no real speeding around Seymour Smith. They're actually really decent about that. It's just with the high school, and I mean, they
It makes sense.
they get
Yeah.
moving, especially like I see track trailers. I rode a guy with 50, 53 and a 25 in a tractor trailer, turned like right at the beginning of school. So, I just thought since I've been wondering about that. I wasn't sure who to ask about that, but
So we can make that same request when the supervisor puts this information on the crosswalk. What
Yeah.
I'll do is I'll take a look at the New York State manual as far as the actual classification and designation as far as the sign, the selection sign. So that way you can refer to that in the.
Great.
Thank you so
Oh,
much.
absolutely.
Appreciate
Yeah,
that.
that's great.
And Supervisor, if you would, when you prepare that correspondence to those entities, I think it would be a good idea to perhaps carbon copy the state representatives as well. So that way
Okay.
they're aware of it.
The state representative, I mean,
As far as state assembly person and.
oh,
state,
okay, so Dee and
Sue.
Dee and Sue,
Yep.
okay, great.
Sometimes they can perhaps, again, I was just thinking of the flashing sign, because again, you're also seeing at some of these crosswalks, you've got the flashing signs and they're solar powered and so forth. They may assist in some financing and funding
Great.
for that as well. So that's it.
Okay, wonderful, thank you. I have a question to ask you. The sidewalk on the eastern side of the pharmacy is a mess. And Nasser has been asking who owns it and who's gonna fix it. So I called the county and met with Coop, and he determined that, so there was a lot of, Ray and I were talking about who's got jurisdiction over that. Is it the county, state, the town? It's Nasser. It's the pharmacy, according to the DPW.
Right.
So this man has done so much for the town in terms of,
Can I just interject
Yeah.
something? When they rebuilt that whole area, the sidewalks under the state reconstruction, they assigned the responsibility of maintenance to an entity. And more than likely, they assigned it to us.
they did.
And then we then turned around and made it. How did it become his responsibility?
I
to
don't know,
rebuild?
but that's what the DPW told me.
Oh,
But I don't think,
But it would go to the
that,
state.
I was gonna say, yeah, to Don's point, I believe that sidewalk was actually installed as part of the DOT project.
Yes.
And it was funded by the DOT. And as Don said, generally speaking, DOT has jurisdiction within Don, correct me if I'm wrong,
200
200 feet of the intersection. So if they turned over the improvement, it would have been inclusive of that portion of the sidewalk. So technically, it's the town's
I would
responsibility.
think so.
So can we then fix it?
Yes,
I would think so.
Okay,
yeah, just like any other sidewalk
right.
along Main Street or any of the other county roads.
Now, is he talking in terms of the condition of the sidewalk in general or the swamp? In
Well, the swamp is kind of gone because when they repaved,
Mhm.
they fixed that curve, the big curve.
you know,
But then if you go up North Main just slightly,
right,
you'll see a big crack. And he says that the people who are trying to get out of their cars there are stumbling into it's kind of like a pothole almost.
Yeah.
So.
but I just, you know, it's been an ongoing issue.
Right.
Where it collects water in that handicap ramp.
Exactly. So
I didn't know.
that part's okay, but back it up
Mhm.
north.
Where you gotta go around the barrel.
Yeah. So if we could figure out how to fix that for him, it would be terrific.
Well, potentially we could do it, again, part of that SAM grant that the town is, I know that we've been trying to receive
How
that.
long, that was before I got into office,
Yeah.
and we still don't have that money. I mean,
You could use, again, if we ever get it, we could use that funding
yeah,
to get that fixed.
Okay.
That's the reason I bring that up.
well, I've been telling this poor man for that since I got in, and we call, and we've asked every legislator, and you know, it's lost in perpetuity.
COVID.
But
Is that the same grant, right, that we're doing the crosswalk at the library?
Yes. Yes, it is.
we call probably every 2 months, trying to figure out who else would know about this. So anyway, that's been our,
Perhaps you can, I believe that grant was done before Dee Dee, but it may not be a bad idea to get her involved. Unless
she's
she's
on it,
Oh, okay.
but I haven't gotten any response.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but I know she's on it. I got that much.
Okay. And the only reason I mentioned that,
Okay.
I know another municipality that was running into the same issue where
Yeah.
paperwork either got lost or it got at the bottom of the pile, whatever the case may be. Her office worked very diligently to get it to the top of the pile.
Okay,
and
all right,
help
that's,
them at least straightened out where it was in the process and help move it along.
okay. Good, I'll hold my breath. Thank you.
Yep.
Where are we with the slope stabilization?
DEC, just waiting for the DEC as far as the crack study, and so we can go ahead and do the clearing of the trees.
Okay, because I want to be in communication with the owner there. I mean, I know that you will be, but I just,
So was that easement ever signed? Because we did provide the copy of the easement. Did that ever get signed by the owner?
I can look back into that.
And if I need to, just let me know if I need to resend that to you
Okay,
electronically, I can do that.
all right,
But we had prepared that description.
okay. Great, thank you. Okay, Recreation Department. I didn't get an update from him, but camp is concluded. It went really well. A lot of the wonderful revenues you see on the town clerk's report come from camp. So I think they exceeded what they thought they were gonna do. And we also welcome Ankrum kids here because their camp shut down. So I think it was a big success. And we need to set up a bank account for playground donations because I wrote a grant for the playground and they wrote a grant for the playground, the recreation department, which they did through Fossil, with Fossil's help, because they had to have a 501c3 help them. The town can't do it. So we all worked together and got these grants out, and we're just waiting to hear if and what we get. And so we have to set up a bank account so that donation, because we are going to have to make up the shortfall with donations.
So the
Grants are not. gonna go.
They're not gonna be.
So we gotta start fundraising, as in, it's like $110,000 playground, you know.
It's
ADA
141,000.
Oh, 140, okay, what,
I'm
but
saying.
you know, but it's ADA, like,
Yeah.
so it'll be almost destination playground to bring other people in as well. It will go right in front of where the bathhouse is now, but and we gotta anticipate, I think that we should anticipate as we're not gonna get any grants, and we just start fundraising. You know, if anything happens, we get more money, then we make the playground nicer.
I think it's just fabulous playground. It's just vast and the kid gets on it in their wheelchair and they can go anywhere in it on the wheelchair. So it's
Do
very
we give
exciting.
out wheelchairs for kids who want to do it?
Well,
It's like, I
If
know
I
when
get
I
that
was,
grant.
I know when I was a kid, I would love to do other people's wheelchairs and crutches and all that stuff.
So do we need a motion to start open a new bank account for,
do we need a motion to open a bank account?
because it's just earmarking the money.
Yeah, it's just, I think I could just do it, right? Yeah,
I don't know.
That's.
I think it's a
I
good
just wanted
idea
to tell you I was
There's a
good,
few
yeah.
things you can do yourself.
I know.
Yeah, well, we authorize you to do that.
Okay, thank you. And if we get the grant for the all-terrain wheelchairs, then other kids could use them. All right. Nothing from the CAC and animal control. We had 25 training hours this month, 4 calls, traveled 26 miles, investigated 4 complaints. Missing and found dogs reported were 2, total dog seized were 2, and notice to comply and citation issued 3. There were 2 dangerous dog cases completed.
Thank you, Rich.
Okay, onward, old business. The Liberta Monument at the ball field, I stopped in and talked to Lenny. And he said that his donation was the basketball court and that he felt that he had given this to the town. I personally agree with him. I think we should fix the monument. The posts, they're these beautiful kind of granite posts. They're all like this. They're askew. So they need to be righted, and then obviously there's something wrong in underground, so that whatever reason they fell over. And then the top is, needs like, it's not tuck pointing, but it definitely needs to be cemented and stone. Now, I had gotten a bid that we looked at last time. But I never expected it to be that much, so I believe I should get 2 more bids for that repair.
Okay.
That bid was in the 3,000
I remember that,
category, yeah. So, I just wanted to report on that, because I did speak to Lenny. I felt a little bad because he donates a lot to the town cleanup day. But, anyway, that's the fencing at the Graham Brush House. So it fell apart. I want to say early last winter. It basically rotted on the western side. It's split rail. The front is split rail and looks very nice. The side was a wreck. Bobby Lee was couldn't get his new machines into there to mow. Now, I believe Carl might be mowing it. I'm not sure what's going on with the Historical Society on that. We're supposed to be maintaining the edge. People are walking their dogs there and not picking up after them. So the question on the table from the Historical Society is whether we're going to replace the split rail fence on that western side that rotted and fell down.
How many sections is it?
3, maybe 4. Not much.
It's less than $100.
Yeah, it's not much.
Bobby Lee would put it in.
I'm sure he could. The question is really sort of convenience of, like, do we need the fencing there because we need to get in there to maintain, or someone needs to get in there to maintain it.
We don't need to. They
Carl
want
Baden, out of the
fence, or do
kindness
we-
of his heart, is
Yeah.
doing the maintenance
I
there
believe so, yeah.
because Bobby Lee can't get in there.
He couldn't when the fence was up, he couldn't get in there with the new machines he got.
Does
So,
Carl go in from the back?
well, now the fence is down, so that you can easily get in.
But
That
Carl
makes
may have
sense.
access from the back.
Yeah, he might, yeah. Well, that makes sense too.
So if the fence stays down, though, Bobby Lee can maintain it.
Yeah,
There's also no fence on the other side of the building.
correct.
It's only one fence on one side.
And
So
they want a fence or they don't want a fence?
They would like the fence back.
the fence isn't a real reason why you couldn't get in there to mow it, right?
Well, it
Not
was,
that we own now and back of it.
Yeah.
Right?
Because we couldn't go over the PEX.
well, we do
Parking lot?
own, we don't own, actually, we don't own that. It's, it backs up on that other piece of land, that middle piece of land, you know, that's behind
Yeah,
everybody's.
But where all the sheds are and things like that, we own.
That's theirs and Larry's. That big shed back there, not our sheds,
Hmm.
but the other one that's right against the parking lot. That belongs to,
That piece, okay.
yeah.
I thought we went farther back than that.
we don't actually go that far back. But I think the Graham Brush House is at the place where that other piece of land takes over. It's that middle part.
Well, I don't think we should, we've got to finish what we're doing at the North Main before we start, it should really be tied in with something else.
All right, great.
So I actually would put it off for a little.
I agree with Don, and if the fence is down right now, then Bobby Lee can
Right.
maintain it, like,
I
and
mean,
there is no issue.
The contractor can take it away, but that's fine with me. If it's-
They're gonna have to take, I think, well, I don't know if they're gonna have to take that side piece down.
But I mean, if we
Okay.
wanted to get rid of it. that's
Yeah,
fine.
I think so.
I just
Okay.
think From a highway standpoint, if you're taking that fence down that's next to where the parking spots are,
Yeah.
and that the town now owns that property, it would make plowing a lot easier. When
That is
cars
one of the
aren't
other
there,
reasons,
we
that's
can
right.
We can push it in.
'Cause that's where they put
Although
the
That
snow.
is where everybody parks during the storm, because we don't want that on the other side.
Hmm.
But when they move, it does make it easier if that fence that's directly in front of the parking spots, which is
Hmm.
not part of the historical society.
right.
That's just the town. That's
That's
just
right.
keep that in mind, please.
Do we own the property or who actually owns the property? Does
Graham
it-
Brush House?
The historical
This
society.
is
Yeah, I think
historical,
it's
right,
historical
right,
society.
yeah.
But they wanted us to put the fence.
Of
back up,
course.
and- I know,
I think we've always maintained it with broken sections. I know before Bobby Lee, the highway always fixed it.
yeah.
Well, it's not like the historical society is rolling in money, and they're doing a good thing of keeping the history of the
Yeah,
town
they are.
alive, and not too many young people are actually joining in, like, that would be able to just go and do the fence for them, so I think as a town, we should keep those preserved, but wait until after construction,
And the
like Don
snow
said,
removal
this way
aspect
Bobby
is-
Lee can keep going.
Why I think it was kind of falling apart in the first place, it's kind of snow would get pushed up there. And
Before me, over the years.
Yeah.
It was.
sure.
it was pushed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, great. We have to decide on the garden club landscaper. We already approved the extra money for the planters, but they asked us for $1,000.
What they asked for is us to create a budget line.
Yeah.
For next year,
For the garden club.
to pay the person who was doing the landscape maintenance.
Right.
This is for the
Now-
library, it's at the garden club.
Well,
Well-
the garden club's doing it now. They they wanted to, but I don't know if they can do it. Is to have the town taking over paying the person that they're using now. To do that.
Right.
And last year, that was about $800. It's less than $800. So they're asking us to consider putting in our buildings and grounds maintenance, more money to do this with. The question is how do we pay the person that they would like to have do it? So it would, if we could funnel it through the garden club, it's better. Because then we're not dealing with an employee.
Right.
So I just talked to Vicky LaBruto today about it. So, so that was just the issue.
Okay.
But I mean, just to remember, when we create a budget, we've got to have to really look at our buildings and grounds very, very closely because it's, we're taking a lot of money out of that.
Well, this year we did because a lot of things came up.
And, and things like the fence are coming up and things like this are coming up and
Well, we
and
talked
Central
about,
Park North is coming up and.
Well, those transfers, those amendments, remember that
Mhm,
was a,
right.
a donation. That
Right.
amendment didn't get made yet, that's all. That's why you see that on the budget operating.
No, but what I mean is
Yeah.
that's next year, that's going to be
Oh, yeah.
a
Oh, yeah,
cost
for
for
next year.
us. So we really have to look at that closely.
Mhm. Yeah.
You know, we tend to grab a lot of money out of it. But
We need to look at our mowing closely too, right, for that part of it, for the
Well,
rec area, because
well,
we seem
sure.
short staffed in the current mode.
Well, and I also think we have to make some plans for the future because I think there's gonna be some changes there.
Yeah.
And we're not gonna get the same as we have.
All right. So what do you want to do about this then? Do you
Just
wanna
make
Take care
a,
of it.
Make a
no,
decision to look at the budget and find a place for it.
right.
Okay, great.
Well, when, during our budget discussions.
Good.
We have to discuss whether or not we're going to do this and how to do it.
Okay. Great. That's 2022. Okay,
One.
we're on to new business. The Dutchess Land
Conservancy,
Conservancy.
thank you for patiently
Yeah, you were
waiting.
a trooper.
My pleasure.
I warned her. I did warn her.
I saw you, I saw every now and then, you're looking over your shoulder.
All right,
Well,
and Karen,
Expecting, yes.
can you come back
Oh,
on?
okay, I thought you were looking at the clock.
Karen Rue is here.
Yeah, I saw her come in. but
Here she comes.
there.
Hi,
Yeah, I was wondering who she was.
Yeah.
thank you so much for making this an option. I really appreciate it.
Sure, so Karen, will you kind of introduce everything?
Sure, yeah, so Karin is the Dutchess Land Conservancy's Director of Land Projects, and I am the Senior Land Projects Manager, so we often make these presentations to town boards when we're seeking funding from State Department of Ag and Markets to purchase development rights on farmland. And so we're here tonight to talk about the Cedar Ridge project. And I think I had circulated the request with the background information along with the draft letter. So one of the requirements of the application process to New York State is that we obtain a letter of endorsement from the town board, just saying that you're generally supporting the DLC making an application to the state to purchase the development rights. And so Cedar Ridge Farm, as many of you probably know, is a 247.5 acre property shown here in this hashed blue, just up the road on Route 82. This is our context map. This shows all of the protected lands in the area. So all of the lands in blue are DLC conservation easements, and all of the lands in orange are other conservation organizations, many of which are the Columbia Land Conservancy. And you may remember, we actually were here back in 2018 for an endorsement. The town board endorsed the Dutchess View's purchase of development rights. So we just closed that project that's right here to the south in late May. It's one of our recent purchase easements. This is Chase Home Farm, just to the east there, and we have, as you can see, a lot of other connecting protected lands. This is another purchase easement we did on a portion of Ronnie Brook Dairy. So really in kind of a critical mass of not only protected lands, but protected farmland. And it really serves as a kind of a gateway into and out of Columbia County and the town of Pine Plains that has that really extensive road frontage on the east side of Route 82 with the open farmland and the really stunning steep ridge line there. So Gary and Sue Lundy are the property owners, Cedar Ridge Farm LLC, and they run a thoroughbred boarding and foaling operation. And so they've owned the property for nearly 30 years. They've been running the operation the entire time. They're the primary operators, and they're part of the New York State Thoroughbred Breeders Program. So they're really kind of doing their part to contribute to the agricultural economy of not only our area, but New York State. And the property does have some important resources. This is a Farmland Soils Map, so you can see, the area that doesn't consist of farmland soils is pretty much that entire wooded hillside. It's quite steep and not conducive to farming, but about 50% of the property is covered with statewide important farmland soils, and these in brown are prime. So all of this area is used for pasture and just key kind of soils to preserve in terms of preventing development and losing those forever. This is our site plan map and aerial. You can also see there are some water resources. There's an area of federal wetlands here as part of the National Wetlands Inventory. And this is a tributary to the Chicago Creek that kind of bisects the property. This does show our farmstead areas and the no-build area. So the conservation easement will extinguish, it will allow one subdivision right. So the property can be sold eventually into 2 smaller farms if the Lundys or a future landowner made that choice. Given its size, we thought that was appropriate, and it has these 2 farmstead areas that are, far apart from one another to have enough land to support 2 smaller farm operations. And we are seeing that is kind of a trend going forward for farmers to own less land, but still run a meaningful operation. This area to the north is 10 acres that exists around the farm buildings that are there. There's the old dairy barn that's now a stable, 2 residences, and another smaller barn. And that does extend out to the west into some of the pasture. And then this area down to the south is 8 acres that encompasses another stable that has an apartment upstairs. I will point out, and you may be aware already, that the Lundys approached the planning board and had a subdivision approved. That's this line here. That's actually not going to go forward, so you can just excuse that line for now. It's still just the existing 3 tax parcels. This hashed area in white is a resource protection area or no build area, and we really established these on the steep slopes of the property, 15 to 25% or more slope in this area, and back here to the west. And this is, partly to protect if there were any construction up here, erosion into this stream, and just, affecting those steep slopes in general. Additionally, there is the right for, again, whether it's the Lundys or a future landowner, to establish what's called a rural enterprise area anywhere on the property outside of this no build area. And that cannot exceed 3 acres in size. And that's really just to allow a bit more flexibility. The difference between a rural enterprise area and a farmstead area is that the primary or accessory residences are not permitted in a rural enterprise area. And it just allows a farmer some flexibility to maybe site a farm store or some other, commercial agricultural activity away from their existing house or farmstead, if that were an appropriate choice for them. And this, protecting farmland via conservation easements is a priority in the comprehensive plan of the town of Pine Plains. This does fall entirely within the agricultural overlay, which has priorities of protecting agricultural enterprises and specifically farmland soils such as statewide important and prime. Overall, kind of really just hoping to protect the rural integrity of the town and of this area of the county as well. Are there any questions?
Well, I just want to say, I think it's a particularly beautiful vista. And
Could
very
sorry, I'm so sorry, pardon me, this is Karen. If I could interject before any discussion starts. The Department of Ag and Markets has been extremely observant of any potential conflict of interest in any phase of the application, of generating the application. And so we do just sort of always have to ask before any discussion or vote takes place, if there are any, if any board members either live adjacent to or have any business or personal relationship with any of the landowners, if they could possibly recuse themselves, because any known conflict of interest or even appearance of a conflict of interest that would be determined later could be a disqualifying issue. So.
Well, Rory Chase was about to recuse myself before that.
Thank you, Rory.
Property owner, town of Pine Plains, happy to recuse myself from this discussion. I could leave the table if that's required.
No.
Just roll back.
Sit on your hands.
What I was
Thank
saying
you.
is that
Thanks, Karen.
I think it's a particularly scenic vista that we have in the town, and I think it's a very important property to protect, and the steep slope as well that borders that. That's a wonderful property to get into conservation.
I agree.
I agree completely.
So do
So
we
do we
make a
need to-
motion to give them ours of the
Pass
town
on
of Pine
the-
Plan
Yes, I
support?
move that we support this application
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
and the recusal.
Recused.
Thank you very much.
So noted.
Man, we could fit you into the front for that one.
Why don't we do that? I feel so bad.
I did, right?
Do you have the
I
draft
can
one?
correspond. It was just, a basic Word document, so if you're able to pop that on letterhead and sign it at your
Alright.
convenience, I can always
Right.
come back, or you can email.
So put it on letterhead.
Yeah. that would be great. Thank you very much. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you very, very much.
Bye, nice to meet you.
Nice to see you.
So we're going into executive session?
Yeah, just let me make that note. Okay, yes, oh, no, there's one more quick thing. Planning board needs a laptop. I would like, it's gonna come in under 500, so I think we're okay, but it's so Trish can take.
She's been working a lot more lately,
Yeah,
so she
she's-
probably does need
she
it
needs
with
to
her
work from
kids.
home.
Sure.
Okay.
Yes,
All right,
I make
great.
a motion, we get, well, we don't have to, right?
It-
Because
It's under 500, yeah, but I just wanted to let people know. Okay. All right, then I
I
would
make a
like,
motion, we go into executive session to talk about personnel. All personnel, highway and town.
salaries and yes,
We have litigation too.
Can I have this, it's not a litigation, and if you want to go in executive session, then just do an attorney-client session after that.
sure, that sounds great. Madeline, I think you're gonna have to stay. I'm sorry.
Second.
We need we have a second on that?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, then I am going to,
We got here.
need to
Lollipops.
end
Madeline's